Bigotry will not win. Hatred will not win.
A clear message from the people of Pittsburgh tonight at a multi-faith vigil attended by thousands. They will not give way to hate or give up on peace in the wake of yesterday's massacre at a synagogue. 11 killed, 6 wounded. The deadliest anti-Semitic attack in the history of the United States. We are learning more tonight about the victims of the attack. People killed while worshiping, gunned down because they were Jewish. And among the dead, a woman who grew up in Canada. 75-year-old Joyce Feinberg was once a member of Toronto's Holy Blossom Temple. That's where she met and married her husband before moving to the U.S. The oldest victim, 97-year-old Rose Mallinger. The former president of the synagogue says she was a Holocaust survivor. The youngest victim, 54-year-old David Rosenthal, that's him on the left. He and his brother Cecil were inseparable. They died together yesterday. And among the 7 other congregants killed, Jerry Rabinowitz is being remembered as a kind and caring doctor, and husband and wife, Sylvan and Bernice Simon, married for almost 62 years. Paul Hunter has more from a city in pain.
In Pittsburgh tonight, sorrow, determination, and defiance.
We will drive anti-Semitism and the hate of any people back to the basement on their computer and away from the open discussions and dialogues around this city, around this state, and around this country.
Yesterday's shooting rampage at the Tree of Life Synagogue, say police, a hate crime, didn't just leave 11 dead, it left a city stunned. The accused, Robert Bowers, reportedly shouted, "All Jews must die," as he opened fire. He may face the death penalty. Outside the synagogue today, mourners struggled to process any of it. Among them, Carl and Bella Schachter, both Holocaust survivors. As children held in camps in Ukraine, they later fled to America and safety. But now, decades later, this.
I don't know what I feel today. I honestly don't know.
It's very sad. It's a very sad day. We always said never again. But it did happen again. It's just unbelievable. It's 11 people lost their life just because they are Jews.
Coming as it does on the heels of those pipe bombs, say police, sent by a Trump supporter to critics of Donald Trump, has Americans wondering, what has this country become? Say many, the hate on display evermore is fueled by regular polarizing language from the White House.
We have a demented, unhinged individual who is unfortunately President of the United States. And what he is setting as an example is simply, he's inflaming what always subliminally has been part of the American culture.
Earlier, Pittsburgh's mayor pushed back against Donald Trump's comments yesterday that it may be time to put armed guards at synagogues.
I think the approach that we need to be looking at is how we take the guns, which is the common denominator of every mass shooting in America, out of the hands of those that are looking to express hatred through murder.
Meanwhile, Americans themselves seem to be losing faith that any of this can ever be turned around.
Hate speech and a gun culture brings possibility of mayhem, and that's what we have. We have mayhem.
Tonight, Robert Bowers is under guard in hospital, recovering from wounds in a police shootout as the rampage here ended last night. He's scheduled for a court appearance tomorrow. Andrew.
Paul, we got a sense in your piece how people are coping, but you've been there all day, and I want to just ask you outright, how are people coping?
Barely, right? This seems to have really ripped into this city. It's just so sad here tonight. But I got to say, it's a feeling I've seen before in other cities where there have been other mass shootings, and there have been plenty of them. But there's a recognition here that seems to make it worse, which is that, you know, here we are yet again.
And is anyone expecting any fallout from this, politically, I mean, in Washington?
Yeah, well, from everyone I talked to, it was lost on no one that the midterms are coming up. So they say, vote. Vote your conscience. If you link hate with President Trump, get out and vote. Make your feelings known at the ballot box. They told me it's the only response they've got.
Okay, thanks very much. The CBC's Paul Hunter in Pittsburgh tonight. And the horror of the Pittsburgh attack is being felt in Jewish communities around the world, and of course here in Canada as well.
I wanted to stand in unity with the people of Squirrel Hill. I think it's such a tragedy, and it breaks my heart. We all have to act. We all have to raise our voices against what's going on in the world today.
Because every Jew is affected by this. No one is free from harm. Even here, can you have guards all the time? Armed guards?
Part of making sense of what happened will involve understanding exactly how it happened, leading up to the shooting certainly, but also consider what the panic of the moment must have been like. At 9:54 a.m., dozens of 911 calls begin to pour in. Within a minute, 2 police cars pull up. Then a few minutes later, just before 10, the suspect exits the synagogue and confronts them.
We're under fire. He's got an automatic weapon.
The suspect flees back into the building. More police arrive, including tactical units.
Police cars everywhere, there were guns drawn, rifles.
Intelligence from 911 calls is relayed to the scene. At about 10:30, a SWAT team goes in, while patrol police focus on helping survivors.
We're evacuating 1 right now, still alive. We have at least 4 down in the atrium, DOA at this time.
The SWAT officers, they find the suspect on the 3rd floor.
Come on, we got a guy barricaded actively shooting at SWAT operators. All right, be advised, we have a suspect giving us hands and view. We're negotiating a surrender at this time. 7-1, clear the air. We have a surrender in progress. Suspects crawling out at this time.
One difficult task going forward will be to understand Robert Bowers himself. Turns out he used a little-known social network to share anti-Semitic messages. It's called Gab, and it bills itself as a place where all speech is welcome. But as Talia Ricci tells us, it may be much more than that.
Not long before the deadly synagogue shooting, Robert Bowers logged on to Gab. He wrote, "I can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered. Screw your optics, I'm going in." Many of his previous posts were anti-Semitic and pro-gun.
Gab is one of the new forums to have emerged once it became apparent that, more traditional sort of mainstream, if you will, social media platforms were going to start to bounce extreme members of the far right.
Barbara Perry has been researching Gab for months. She says it's a hotbed for far-right conspiracy theories, some of it intensely anti-Semitic, and it's not alone.
When they get closed off from one, they move on to another.
Gab says it champions free speech and individual liberty. Now it's defending itself, saying it has a zero-tolerance policy for terrorism and violence.
We're very saddened and disgusted by the news of violence in Pittsburgh. We have been working with the FBI and the U.S. Department of Justice all day long to ensure that they have the information that they need.
A social media footprint for investigators is the treasure trove. This is where someone apparently may honestly tell you who they are, what they think, what their motives are.
PayPal confirmed to CBC News today that it has canceled Gab's account. Gab's host server announced it's suspending the site, but experts say it can be risky to silence platforms like Gab because that could turn potentially dangerous users to deeper, darker corners of the internet.
It also has the potential, as we've seen, to feed that victim status, that victim mentality that they have, that now they're the targets, now they're the ones who are being silenced.
The site still appears to be operating. In tweets, Gab said it's already found a new host, even as scrutiny mounts on it and other sites like it. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, the suspect has been charged with hate crimes, but not terrorism. You might be asking why. Well, in the U.S., a hate crime is one inspired by an individual's bias against a race, ethnic group, or religion. But terrorism is connected to ideology the person is trying to propagate through violence. And for now, at least, prosecutors don't see that.